Hey friends, and welcome to the Girl Means Business podcast. I'm your host, Kendra Swalls, a photographer and educator on a mission to help you find your passion, power, and purpose through entrepreneurship. So let's jump right into today's episode because this girl means business.
Am I too old to be here?
What?
Am I too old to be here?
No, of course not.
Does it look weird that I'm here?
No, not at all.
Am I hotter than these little bitches?
Yes.
Hey there, welcome to episode 134 of the Girl Means Business podcast. I had to share that clip because it so perfectly matches this week's episode, which is talking all about, am I too old to be here? Now, it's an extra special episode and an extra special week because it also happens to be my birthday. So at the time that this episode is going live, my birthday was the day before, so October 19th, and it was my 40th birthday. So the idea of age and getting older and am I too old to be here has been on my mind for quite a while. And I thought that if something I'm thinking about that's on my mind, it's probably on yours too. So let's talk about it. So the question of, am I too old to be here? Am I too old to be on Instagram? Am I too old to be creating TikTok videos? Am I too old to start a business? These are all things that are valid questions we have in our mind, but it got me really thinking about age and business and the difference between what we think life should look like at a certain point and the reality of what it actually does. So for the past year, I've really been thinking a lot about aging and getting older and preparing to be the big 4-0. And what does that mean? And what does my life look like compared to what I thought it would look like at 40? And I realized something, which is the perception that society has put into our minds of what 40 should look like, whether it is from older generations, media, TV, Hollywood, magazines, all the things, telling us that 40 is over the hill, that it is kind of the downhill slide, that you've hit your prime and now you're just coasting into retirement. That 40 should be when you kind of have things figured out and you should be like a full-blown adult by this point. And the reality is that that's not what 40-year-olds are doing these days. That's not how we are thinking. That's not how we're looking. That's not how we're acting. And that's not how we're enjoying our lives. I don't feel like I'm on the downhill slide. I feel like that I am just getting started. But while I feel like that I'm just getting started, I wanted to really give you some numbers, something to kind of really hold on to when you're starting to think about, am I too old to be doing this? So I found an article from Inc. magazine where they were talking about a study of 2.7 million startups, and they found what is considered the ideal age to start a business. And they have some really interesting facts in here. But what they found was that the average age of a startup, the average age of people who were filing for corporations and partnerships was 45 years old. And this is the other interesting part, is that they found out that if you are 40 years old as a startup founder, you are 2.1 times more likely to find success at 40 than you are at 25. And if you are 50 years old, it's 2.8 times more likely to be successful than a 25-year-old, which kind of makes sense because if you think about it, there is a lot that goes into building a business that you need life experience for. If I had started the businesses I have now when I was in my 20s, I don't think it would look anything like it is now. I don't know that I would have been able to push through the hard times. I don't know that I would have had the motivation and the driving force that I had, and I definitely wouldn't have the life experience and knowledge I have behind me. So in reality, being a little bit older, having some of that life experience, that age behind you is a benefit to starting a business. When I started my photography business, I was 30, 31, just having my first child. I was teaching full time. I had realized I didn't really love the teaching career that I had, and I couldn't picture being in that for the rest of my life. So I had these kind of motivating factors. I had the fact that I was not just by myself. I had a husband, I had a child to support and raise. I had a house payment, I had a car payment, I had student loans for my master's degree. I had all these things that I had to provide for. And so those motivated me to want to work even harder. Had I been 22, 23, 24, and I didn't have those things, I don't know that I would have been as motivated, or I don't know that I would have stuck with it the way that I did. And so when I think about that question of, am I too old to be here? Am I too old to be doing this? I don't think that's the case. And I think this is where the idea of what society tells us aging looks like versus the reality is. The societal view is that like, oh no, you should be settled into a career and just kind of coasting your way until you hit retirement. The reality is that you're in your 30s, your 40s, and your 50s, and you're thinking, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to create a life that I love. I want to create a life around my time schedule. I want to create a life around the things I enjoy and not be dictated by somebody else's time off schedule or 9-to-5 schedule. So while it makes sense that the older you are and the more life experience you have, that can help you really understand what you're passionate about, it can help be your driving force to making a change in your business or in your life. Another key factor that these studies have shown that have been really beneficial with being a little bit older when you start a business is your network. The older you get, the larger your network becomes. If I think back to my 20s and the network of people I had around me, they weren't really people who were going to help me grow a business or help support me to build a business. But as I've gotten older, I have a wider circle of network friends around me. I have not only like my immediate close friends who are way more supportive and appreciative and there for me when I need them. I've got, a network of people that I've met through former jobs and careers and schooling. And then you add in the fact that when your kids are in school, you now have this network of other parents. So the older you are, the wider your network becomes, which makes a lot of sense because a lot of times you need that network to help you with connecting you with people, whether it's financial help, whether it is marketing help, or finding potential clients. You never know where your next client is going to come from. So having that wider network can be really beneficial to helping you grow your business. Now, another benefit of being a little older when you start your business or as you're growing your business is that you really know how to manage your time. You know how to manage, a work life and a home life and a social life. You're just a little more prepared for the aspects that come with building a business. So while it might feel like there are days where you're like, oh, I wish I had started this sooner. I wish I'd done this before I had kids. I wish. The reality is you are where you are. And I'm saying this to myself as much as I am to you. You are where you are for a reason. You started your business when you did for a reason. And while you may not feel like you're where you're supposed to be or you're far enough down the road, that's just in your head. I think we all have this idea that we're on this track of running a race with all these other entrepreneurs and all these other moms and all these other women, and that it's either they're ahead or they're behind or they're beside. The reality is we're all running our own race and nobody's ahead of anybody. It's just you competing with you. And so as long as you are doing the things that make you happy and feel good in your business, then you're on the right path. Now, the other thing I wanted to kind of touch on in this episode is the idea of social media, because this is, I think, where, and I know for me personally, this is where some of that doubt comparison comes in, because I get on social media and I do see these 20-somethings who are young, kid-free, maybe they're not married or they're newly married and they're traveling the world and they're creating these businesses and they're living this amazing life. And it can feel like, they're doing it so fast and they're doing it so early. And they're talking about retiring at 35 or retiring at 40 or whatever. And you're like, but I'm not there. I'm at 35, I'm at 40, and I'm not doing those things. And what I've learned, I've said this on the podcast before, and I will say it a million times again, is that you get to choose what you see on your social media feed. And I'm preaching to myself here because everything I'm saying to you right now are things that I'm also saying to myself because it's something that I'm struggling with in the moment. And that is that going through my Instagram feed, going through my Facebook feed and saying, who do I really want to see here? Do I want to surround myself with 20-somethings who are going to make me feel bad for the fact that I'm not as far along as they are, even though they're, 15, 20 years younger than me? No. I want to log into Instagram and scroll through my feed and see incredible women who are doing amazing things despite how old they are. I want to fill my feed with people who encourage me, who make me feel better about what I'm doing, not make me feel worse. And so one of the tasks that I've given myself in the last week or two is to really evaluate when I see somebody pop on my social media feed, no matter how much I think I can learn from them or how much I enjoy seeing their stories, I really have to ask myself the question, does this person make me feel less about myself? And if the answer is yes, I click unfollow. And here's the beauty of that. I can always go follow them again at any other point. They're not gone for good. This is not a permanent blocking situation. This is me saying I'm protecting the space that I'm in. I'm protecting my mental health. I'm protecting my heart because I want to make sure that I am 100% excited about where I am, about my business, about my life, about all those things. And one of the ways I can do that is by eliminating factors within the social media world that make me feel like I'm less than that. So that's step one of getting comfortable with social media at any age. Step two is I don't want us to feel like that there is an age limit on how we use social media. With the invention of TikTok and Reels, I see a lot of people saying like, I'm too old for TikTok. I'm too old to be dancing and pointing on a video. No, says who? Who says you're too old for that? Because I see a lot of people on TikTok and Instagram who are way older than I am doing amazing things on there. There's this one lady I follow, Brunch with Babs, I think is what it's called. And I don't know how old she is, but she's talking about like kitchen tips and she does these funny little videos and tips on how to like pack your car for vacation. And she talks about her grandkids and her videos are incredible. So my point to that is if you are starting to think, oh, I'm too old for that, but we know the value of some of these things for business, we know how important it can be, find people who are doing it at all ages. There are people out there doing it at all ages and they are killing it. You just have to go find them because you need more of that in your face saying, look at what this person's doing and she's 10 years older than you. Look at what this person's doing and she's the same age as you. And I know I just got done saying, don't compare yourself to other people. That's not what I'm telling you to do. What I'm saying is use it as inspiration. Use it as a way to say, you know what? Not all of the successful people hanging out on Instagram and TikTok are 25. Some of them are 35 or 45 or 55 or 65. So if they can do it, you can do it. So I want us to stop putting this age limit on social media because social media is made for everybody. And yeah, you're going to probably see a lot more of the younger people flooding into TikTok and Reels and Facebook and Twitter and all these things. There's still a space for all of us. This is one of the things I like about, one of the few things I like about Facebook, because it's not my favorite platform, but that they have created this idea with groups that there is a place for everyone. They even have all these commercials out talking about like, no matter what your interest, no matter where you are in life, there's a group for you. And I think that that is a really smart idea because they are trying to tell us that, yeah, you're not in a box. No one is telling you, oh, you've hit the age of 35. Social media is done for you. There is no rule about that. If you go through the social media terms and conditions, nobody says at 35, you have to stop being on social media. We have told ourselves that. We have allowed ourselves to believe that. And it's just not the case. And so I want us to take that same idea that Facebook is doing with these ads for their Facebook groups and apply it to Instagram and TikTok and Twitter and all these other places that you're hanging out, which is there is a place on this platform for everyone. And if you don't see somebody else like you doing it, you can be the first. Maybe you don't have another example of a 40+ woman who is out there creating reels about gardening. Go do that. You be that person for somebody else. You be the person that somebody else looks at and says, she can do it because here she is. She's 44 and she is killing it with video. She's 43 and she is doing an amazing job with these makeup tutorials. She's 39 and she is the funniest mom videos I've ever seen. So if you don't already see it out there, go create it. Whew, okay. I got a little bit on a soapbox there, but this episode was as much for me as it was for you. This was a way for me to get all these thoughts that have been in my head about turning 40 out into the world. And I felt like if I'm having these thoughts, then you might be having these thoughts. And hopefully something I said today in this episode will resonate with you. Now, if you like this episode, if this is something that you've been struggling with or thoughts you've been having or anything in here just kind of struck a chord with you, I would love for you to head over to Instagram, go to Girl Means Business, look for my birthday post, and go leave me a comment. I want to hear from you what you think about this episode. Just go find the big picture of me celebrating my 40th birthday and let me know what you thought. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this week's episode. I hope you have a fabulous week, and I will see you back here next week for another incredible episode. Bye, guys. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed the conversation as much as I did. And as always, you can find any links or resources mentioned in today's show down in the show notes. And if we're not friends outside the podcast yet, then what are you waiting for? Come find me on Instagram at Girl Means Business. Send me a DM letting me know what you thought of today's episode or any of the past episodes you've listened to. You can also take a screenshot of today's episode and post it to your stories, tagging at Girl Means Business, and I'll give you a shout out on my page. I love connecting with you and hearing all about your business and can't wait to get to know you more. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will meet you back here next week, same time, same place.